Welcome to Season 3 of the Take the Leap podcast. We want to thank you for being a part of this journey with us.
Whether you're just starting to tune in or you're a longtime listener of the podcast, you can expect to hear from entrepreneurs in all stages of their journey, how they got to where they are, and all the mistakes and victories they've had along the way.
We're excited to share new guests and have some returning folks from our first 2 seasons. Thank you for being here, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Take the Leap podcast. We are so excited today to have our guest, Sean Murphy. Sean is the founder of Loreworks Creative Studio, a story-first production company helping nonprofits harness the power of storytelling. With over 25 years in film and television, spanning American Idol, Glee, and a slew of indie projects, Sean now works with mission-driven organizations to uncover authentic narratives, align their teams, and deepen community impact. His work blends story strategy with visual craft, drawing on the collective journey framework to surface deeper truths and shared purpose. Welcome to the podcast, Sean. We're so excited to have you today.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's super nice to get to sit down and chat.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so sorry, but like just going over your, I would need to stop and like talk about this for a minute. Because I guess I did not pick up on this. We've had many conversations, but I want to know more about this American Idol and Glee
Very small
experience. Like I really
projects.
just want to talk about that for a
Nobody's heard of these TV shows. One of them most certainly was not the biggest show in the world. Um,
minute.
yeah, I went to film school in Montana. I went to Montana State and in Bozeman. And at the time, it was ranked as like I think number 5 in the country. It was a really competitive program.
Would
I
not have
learned a
thought
lot.
that about Montana State and Bozeman.
Yeah.
It doesn't, yeah, a lot of it doesn't get the attention it deserves, in
Yeah.
all honesty. And it was really great experience. I'm still really tight with a lot of people from the school. Um, and then some of, I, I am by far not even close to successful. Some of my peers and dear friends have done some really amazing stuff. But from that, I ended up in LA, and which is tough, and did a lot of indie stuff. And eventually, a friend of mine, her name's Sarah, really really wonderful person, needed somebody with some editing skills for producing web content for American Idol.
Mhm.
And there's some stuff. There's a lot of stuff I did that I did end up on the air, so I get to claim it. I did not have any control over the show whatsoever, but I can tell you a ton. I don't know if I'm still under NDA, but at this point, it's like at one point it went off the air and then came back. I think I'm good. So I can tell you whatever. Uh, but that show, it's probably one of the biggest things I've ever worked on. I went all over the country. Um, I had because under the state of California, it is not technically a TV show, it's technically a sweepstakes. And the state of California says that you have to give everyone the same chance, which means that those guys that you see in auditions who absolutely have no business trying to sing, they have to have the same representation on the show as the people who clearly are ringers who are coming in and they just are amazing. They have to have that same chance, and that's like in a skill-based competition doesn't actually translate under the law. So they had people like me producing content on the web, and a lot of it was just basically interviews. Some of it was very branded, so there's a lot of guidelines involved. um, uh, but I had to interview every single person who auditioned. So when they'd have like 3,000 people every year.
Oh my God, there'd be like a line. They'd always show the line of
I
humans hanging
I
out.
would have to cut content around that, and then the people that made it to like the official auditions, not just the cattle call, those are the people that the law primarily encompasses.
Mhm.
And so I would have to interview all of them, and there was a way of doing it early on that wasn't very good, and I got to put my hands in and start changing how we shot it, how we lit it. Some of the branded content I completely changed. Uh, it was the first time that Coca-Cola as a partner had given us any positive feedback, was a spot that I did for them. And that came out of an accident because somebody in production was like, we can't give you the usual studio space that you're interviewing the kids in. Can you use our green room? You just need to make sure you're out before we go to tape because we need the green room for cast, obviously. And that was when we were getting into the live show. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And I get down there and it's a huge room on the CBS lot. And that I just went, well, screw it. We've got our Kino flows with us. We've got 2 cameras. I'm just going to throw this up using a real simple 3 light scheme, like what we learned in film school. And and there's a Fresnel mounted in the back, so I was able to get like a little hot spot on the hair, and it was like textbook. It looked so nice. Shot it, and then at that point, I was experimenting with editing uh, the the format of that content so that it was rather than every person goes, I am repeating the question right now, and here is my answer, and then I will repeat the next question and give the answer, and then the next person does the exact same formatting. I would take the clausal statement of what they're saying. And then I'd weave it into a response statement from the next person who's maybe answering a different but thematically related question. And then I'd weave it into this conversation. And they loved it. Like the stakeholders, it was the first time they gave us positive feedback. They absolutely loved it, and they loved the
Mhm.
way I shot it. And then from that point on, I was able to pretty much run with it until my last season. And then I went on to just start doing a bunch of different other things. I worked on a ton of movies. Um, I worked as an assistant director. I worked as a PA. I worked as a light. As an electrician guy. I worked as I actually drove trucks for a little while on productions.
Awesome.
I
Yeah,
did
so cool.
actually hit a tree once. It wasn't fun. Uh, and then I almost went over the edge in Malibu Canyon because I was like, oh, I'm going to take this road because it's going to be faster, and it wasn't. Um, yeah, and in a semi, it was really, really
Oh
scary.
my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I've got hundreds of stories. I mean, like uh, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
We even got I even got chased out of a biker bar in San Bernardino once. Um, yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. It was a wild time, and as hard as it was, I wouldn't trade it for anything because it taught me a lot about improvisation
Mhm.
and being able to kind of bring that energy forward. Um, and then yeah, and then I also I worked on Glee for a couple seasons, um, which was fun. It was tough because it's long days, like those
Mhm.
kinds of studio projects, like TV projects. You are on the lot all the time. Sometimes you shoot off the lot, but mostly when you're on the lot, like everything's concrete and asphalt. You're on your feet all the time, and yeah, just it just can be physically demanding.
Yeah.
Um, but Glee was cool. I got pulled on that by an AD that I've known for a long time. His name's Roger Udwin, super great guy. Um, and he got my back for a long time. So because sometimes it's feast or famine in that business, and so if I wasn't getting editing work, he'd hire me on for stuff and keep me going. And that's I mean that's just kind of how it is as a freelancer, which you are no matter what you do in Hollywood, unless you're like staff at an agency or a studio or something like that. You really are just kind of constantly hunting.
For your next
I
project. Yeah.
I might have gone off the rails
No,
a,
this
a
is
little bit
No,
great.
there.
that was fantastic. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute when we kind of ask you our first official question here, but I'm sure a lot of those skills are transferring over
Yeah,
into kind of your journey into now.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's kick off with the first question that we always ask. And thank you again for taking us on that journey because it's so,
Yeah,
so
that was wild. I love that.
it's so great to like hear about that.
Oh, there's
What is
more.
Yeah. What is your take the leap story? How did you become an entrepreneur? What kind of led you to this next step?
So, it should probably come to no surprise that given my background, just kind of the way that you have to navigate Hollywood to survive. Um, I didn't come from money, which is not, it makes it so much harder in Hollywood. I mean, like the whole Nepo baby conversation that people were having a couple of years ago, like
Real.
that applies to everything. You have to know people just to survive. You have to have help just to survive. Um, and I didn't. My folks have never been had a lot of money. They did the best they could, but like they weren't paying my rent. I had to pay my rent. They didn't keep me from running out of gas on the freeway. I had to do that. Uh, Food was a constant, an issue because it's one of the most expensive cities in the world, and it's an industry with no guarantee of anything. Um, so I was already kind of adapted to a freelance lifestyle. Uh, and then at one point, my wife and I decided that we wanted to leave Los Angeles and move to Portland. And so we moved up here, and I managed to get an interview with an agency up here for a series of commercials. And they offered me an obscene amount of money to cut these commercials. And I had to have my very best poker face on when the guy told me how much money he was putting aside for me. Hold on, sorry, my cat's doing things. No, no, you don't scratch that. She's trying to get my attention.
Of course.
You can come into the show. It's okay.
Yeah, kitties are more than more
Special
than welcome to
special
make
guest.
special appearances.
Um, so I had to just kind of like keep it together. When he gave me the number, I had to give him my straightest face and just go, yeah, okay, that sounds about right. Inside, I was going, you know, finally, like I worked on huge shows. They never even came close to this amount of money. You, sir, get the very best of me. And then on the drive home from that meeting where we shook hands, he's like, I'll see you Monday. I'm excited to work with you. Um, he called me and says, "Hey, office politics, I have to go a different direction. I'm really sorry. I'll get you on the next one," which is industry speak for we will never talk again. Um, and it haven't. As a matter of fact, I've been in Portland now 10 years, and I never heard from that guy again. I bear him no grudge though. Um, and I was on the verge of just running out of money. We made the leap up here because we just needed a quieter, more stable life, and we just really love Portland. Um, so I was talking to my mom, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I'm like, I'm in such a niche like skill set and work experience. Like, what do I don't even know what to do now. And she goes, well, why don't you just deliver food for Uber Eats or something. And I went, all right, you know what, mom, you're right. And first few nights were great. Uh the tech bros who smoke too much pot and then order food were the best customers, because you show up and they'd forget that they paid through the app and hand me a pile of cash that I thought was a tip. And I would go down to my car and be like, man, this is like $50. And once you're off the delivery's done, I can't contact you to be like, hey, wait a minute. And I'm just like, the first couple of nights I was like, this is really great. And then there was nothing for the rest of the week. And I ended up getting a call for like a burrito or something like that. And I ended up going to this house. It was December. It was 18 degrees in Oregon, and it rains all the time here. And I delivered the burrito, and then as I turn to leave the property, I slipped and shattered my hip,
Oof.
and I couldn't walk for a year. It was really bad. I have an implant in my leg now. It goes from my hip to my knee. Um, it's a whole thing, and that was a bad deal. My wife and I were like, we don't know what to do. The bill was like 100 grand, and this local nonprofit called the Urban League of Portland. And the Urban League is a national nonprofit. Their Portland office here had a whole program that was like, hey, we help people re-career into tech jobs, and they had like rent stipend and all kinds of stuff, and we signed up for it, because my wife was like, you can handle computers really well, you should just jump into this. And I did it, and I excelled in it, and all credit to the Urban League. They kept us going. So after I completed that program, they placed me in an IT company, and that was I stuck it out. It was really tough. Um, uh, I think that it is uh, it is a noble pursuit to say this is my job. I'm going to show up at 8 a.m. every day. I'm going to put 150% in. When I clock out, I go home, and that is my life for the rest of my life. It After a couple of years, I realized that that's not sustainable for me. I wanted to give something back to the Urban League, so I advocated for them heavily while I was there, and I did the best I could to put them in a position on a technology perspective, like that kept them going. Um, but after a couple of years, it was really, really hard. I was miserable, and my wife was like, "You need to, you this isn't for you." And so I quit. I gave more than adequate notice, and parted on good terms. And then I got a job at an agency editing commercials again. And so I was riding my bike every day to cut commercials, and I was living the Portland lifestyle. It was amazing. And that was a couple of the happiest years I'd had in a long time. Um, and I'd been able to like rehab my leg and stuff. And I was making incredible money. It was amazing. And then COVID hit. And COVID, it has restructured everything in our society, whether we realize it or not. And I'm sure that both of you know,
Yep.
advertising got impacted as well. And so that agency was like, at first they were like, hey, like this next year is going to be amazing for you. We can't wait to work with you. You're going to be busy. And then they kept putting off the projects, and eventually they were like, "We can't bring you back." And then they were like, "Hey, we could bring you back, but it's for $14 an hour." And I was like, they had all new management. They had like restructured the whole company, and it was just people that didn't know me, and they were like, "Yeah, $14 an hour, or we're gonna give that job to this college kid who's gonna do it." And I was like,
I
"All right."
worked, yeah, I was going to say my first agency gig, I worked for $14 an hour in 2007. So like
Yeah.
that's not even that's a slap in the face. That was like
It,
go away kind of
it was
offer.
absolutely
Oh,
well. So the context of this is that uh, at one point I like just like remotely cut a commercial for them, and I kind of stood my ground on a couple of things. They wanted me to renegotiate for a slightly lower rate, and I was like, "No, I'm under contract with you guys for this much. You can't do that while I'm working on a thing." And I think it ruffled the new executive feathers. And I mean, I guess that's a lesson learned, but at the same time, like you still have to advocate for yourself, because if you start saying yes to too many of those kinds of favors, you're never going to stop. And so I go back and forth as to whether that was a move. But COVID kind of kicked in fully, and then they were like, yeah, $14 an hour, and I'm like, I can't do that, guys. Like, you know, I'm an adult that I have to, I've worked hard and endured quite a bit to be able to request the rate that I request. So uh and it's been off and on good stuff, lean times, great times since. And what got me to that leaping point was the election. At the risk of getting political, um I didn't like the things I was seeing, the effects it was having on communities and people that I have ties to in the nonprofit world. And I had cut a holiday video, sort of like a narrative piece on personal journeys of people within the National Association of Minority Contractors, which is where my wife works. They asked me to shoot and edit this thing, and um, I put it together, and there was a bunch of other nonprofit people at their holiday event who were like, "Who did that? That was great. I really want that." And I just was going, could I really make a go of this? And then I just thought, I could, because the truth of the matter is especially now, where the political landscape is sort of assaulting our societal norms and the things that we don't realize are the underpinnings of our communities. We need community organizations and nonprofits themselves to sort of establish their epistemology and their story. Um, and they need the ability to tell it, and they need people who can help them tell it. But more than that, they need people who can help them build the narrative infrastructure so that they, as an organization, are capable of not just telling their story, but um, providing space for their staff, their communities, um, their stakeholders, from leadership to the rank and file, to be able to tell their stories, because though that's where they claim their truth. That's where they begin to find alignment and repair, systemic flaws, because that's really what nonprofits do, is they look for a flaw in the system and they try to propose a solution.
Mhm.
And that's where I started to kind of weave in collective journey modality, which is it's a alternative to the hero's journey, that was identified, and a lot of the academic work was developed by a man named Jeff Gomez of Starlight Runner Entertainment. If you look him up, he is like the most influential guy that you might not have heard of.
Mhm.
He's consulted on Pirates of the Caribbean, Avatar, huge stuff. And I was fortunate enough to be put into a position where he mentored me, and so I've been applying that modality to my nonprofit work.
Awesome. I cannot wait to go research more on that.
Yeah, I know. Same.
It gets dense. I mean, just FYI, like you have to be kind of a story nerd to really appreciate it. And so that's
Mhm.
where, having gone to film school, being really into Star Wars, and then
Mhm.
I devoured Hero of a Thousand Faces, which is Joseph Campbell's seminal work where he discusses the archetypes of the hero
Mm.
cycle.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's a seminal work. It really was established what we all think of as how a story should work.
Mhm.
And there are all competing modalities that emphasize decentralization and interconnection, things that we need to kind of focus on societally, rather than constantly looking for an individual savior. We help each other, and that's why it aligns with the nonprofit world, which I'm
Yeah.
probably getting ahead of your interview a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, it's all
Yeah.
good. And I think, one of the things that you and I first connected on was like just our love of nonprofits and
Yeah.
the very, very important work that they do. And thank you for the work that you're doing with them, because
Yeah.
that is one of the things that I'm always telling folks is like, you have to share with the public why you're important, why you exist, what you are doing. You can't be too busy to share that,
Yeah,
because there are, the everyday lay person who knows nothing about nonprofits thinks that your homeless serving nonprofit is the same as this one over there. And you
yeah,
Right.
you have to explain what it is that requires both of your existence, because of, I'll just call it out, what, Trump is doing to
Yeah.
undermine the
yep,
nonprofit sector out there is making it that organizations are going to close, fold, and we're going to see an even greater number of folks who are being thrown into poverty, who are having just terrible things happen in their lives. And I think I'm definitely of the mindset that like everybody deserves to live you know, a life where they feel well, while they feel taken care of, regardless of the circumstances in which you came into this world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Agree.
100%.
Absolutely. Well, wow, what a journey. What a journey to
We're still on
entrepreneurship.
it.
We're still on
Right.
it. Well, and I love this question, and I'm curious what you're gonna say too, in response to this, because you have just started. So like knowing what you know now, going back, to when you were kind of first like, okay, I really think I should take this leap. What's something you would tell yourself, a piece of advice you would give yourself when you first started knowing what you know?
Piece of advice I would give myself, knowing what I know now, uh, eh, be more gentle with yourself. Um, you're going to mess up. You're gonna make mistakes, and you're gonna attach emotion to those mistakes too.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is personal.
Mhm.
Nonprofit work is personal. Like it is professional. We're talking about business. Um, but it's not in a vacuum. It's you have reasons for being there, motivations, right? For some people it's trauma, for some people it's a need for validation, a lot of different things. It gets very complex. But it's also how you are trying to pay the bills and survive and navigate. um and that there's personal consequences to that.
Mhm.
So be gentle to yourself. The other thing is I would say give credit where it's due. And so I need to call this out. This is something that I think is really important to say, is that I would not be doing this without my wife. uh, Orlin Concepcion Murphy is center of my world. She is the source of my joy, and she is my partner in this. Um, she has been supporting us through this. She supported us when I broke my hip and couldn't walk. She is the reason that our life is as good as it is now, and where we are in a position where we can say, let's start a business. Like you know, the discussion was literally like, you as a person, Sean, do not make sense in a traditional work environment, because that isn't who you are, that isn't where you've come from, and that's not the experience you've had. And the fact that she goes, that you need to do your own thing, and backs me fully on it, um that deserves the credit, right? A lot of people get into this. Sorry, people are need to not bug me. Focus. Do not disturb until this evening. Thank you. Um, sorry, a friend's father-in-law just passed. Um,
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
it's okay. I mean, he was old. They knew it was coming.
Mhm.
Anyways, so she needs to get that credit, and because a lot of people get into this, and like I said, it's personal. And it's slower than you realize it's going to be. I think a lot of people, especially if you're coming from like a freelance environment like I did, um, being freelance, it's like, okay, nothing happens for days and days and days. And then you wake up late and you look at your email on your phone and you go, holy shit, someone just sent me an email at 6 a.m. and they're like, hey, I need you to work right now. And you have to pretend that there was a good reason for not responding right away. And then you go and you work and you bust your ass. And then you get another few days, weeks, whatever, before you get another call. Um, so it feels like, you're on call all the time, but you're also, it's just ebb and flow. When you decide you're going to go and do your own business, everything slows down, because now it's not some business calling you, it's you having to figure out how to navigate this, plot out leads, plot out what you need to do to build the business, materials you need to access. So I would say, be gentle with yourself, give credit, and understand it's going to move way more slowly initially than you imagined. Um, and then the final piece of advice, but it's a piece of advice that I was already had internalized for a long time, which I have to credit to one of my very favorite clients from back in Hollywood. Is a woman named Regina Taufin who produced a children's show called The Kitty Landers Show, and her character Kitty Landers, she had me cut some interstitial content for the TV for the streaming show. Um, would always tell children, work with what you got, not what you're not. So
I
work
love
with what you
that.
have
Mm-hmm.
to play, to do whatever. But I have tried to apply it even to this business. Um, as much as I emphasized putting um, uh, a premium on the equipment, making sure that I was putting it together a really nice package. Uh, work within a certain constraint and work with what you have available to you.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, you shared so many cool things
Yeah.
in the answer to that question. One, I think I enjoy this. I was at a networking event earlier today where people were like, what are you really grateful for? And I'm like, my husband, who like is the house husband, who supports me, who washes my clothes and does the dishes and like feeds me, like it does all these things. And I think folks forget about the people around you. So I love that you thank your wife,
Yeah.
for making this possible, because I think a lot of times I've heard this from entrepreneurs, they forget about their partner, in this, because it is so, this is my business, this is what I'm doing.
Mhm.
As well, and that you had that aha moment in that tech job, because as you were saying that, I was like, oh my god, that like stifled your creativity. You would not have been able,
Yeah.
like, it's just such one of those straightforward, jobs. And I remember when I was in college, like I could have definitely done the accounting and finance job. Like I didn't do bad in those classes, but I was like, it'd be so boring. I chose marketing because it is fun. You get to
Hmm.
be creative, you get to do different things. Like it's not just numbers and and straightforward stuff. So I'm glad you were able to really like live in that, and um, know that it does eventually get easier, but it is hard when you're just starting out too, because like folks don't know you in this capacity. They know Sean the freelancer, they don't know Laura Works Creative Studio. So
Sure.
it will take time, but you will get there,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it sounds like you do stellar stellar work that is not replaceable by
I mean,
the
I think
$14
I'm
an hour
okay.
kid. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
$14 an hour kid. I still kind of like ruminate on that. I'm like, man, it's just you can't just keep saying yes to every job either.
Yeah,
You have to be
yeah,
able
Right.
to say like, I hear you, you need help on this, but like, I have people that are relying on me too. I have a cat who needs to be fed.
yeah.
That's my fur baby.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's just so true. There are just so many lessons in that. I feel like you freelancing first, like going through your journey and your experience up until now is just gonna serve you super well, because those are some lessons that I like learned as I was going, and I'm like, oh, this is much different than I expected it to go in my head. And I'm still learning. I mean, if you ask me in 5, 10 years from now, I'll give you a whole plethora of other things that I'm like, oh, yeah, I thought I was an expert back then, but I was not.
Oh yeah. Um,
I-
I do think it's a strength to know that you don't know everything.
Yeah,
Um, a friend of mine put it better, and I've been struggling to remember the way she phrased it. Like, it's a good thing to know that you don't know.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because
And that's
we're only human. Things change. There's no possible way that all of us can
everything.
know everything.
Yeah.
And so just to admit it and just be like, yeah, I'm constantly learning,
Hmm.
um, is so much, it's more real than, someone who pretends to know everything.
All right, so I have the last question before we put you in the hot seat questions. So, what's your why? Why entrepreneurship? I know you dove into it a little bit, but why? What's your why?
So, I I have always kind of felt like, it's interesting that you're asking this, because this is something that come up in the context of other conversations I've had with people recently. unrelated subject. But I've always kind of never, I always felt like I never really fit in anywhere. Um, and I think what also helps people, show up and punch in 8 a.m. every day, go to a job, the same job, 30 years, do that whole thing. And again, like all due respect, because that's a
It's fair.
grind.
Yeah.
But I think part of what keeps people going there is like a sense of belonging, right? And I have very rarely felt that. Even when I was in Hollywood, like, you get tight with people on a crew. But I never really, hey, sorry, come here. Oh, girl, I love you, but okay, back to the thing. So I never felt like I belonged. I never felt like I fit in. And making your peace with that, at least making my peace with that, meant that I mean, where do I feel like I can help, that I can cover my bases, and that I can kind of plot the course of my own future. Um, and while also, having the personal capacity to just be present for my wife, to be able to kind of like focus on that lived reality as well. Working in like film, like you can do 20-hour days, 6 days a week. I did for years. Um, uh, that doesn't leave you a lot of room for anything.
Yeah.
In fact, we didn't have hobbies till we moved into Portland. So my why is more just I I want to be able to do something that is going to help people in my community. Um, because if I have to make a living, I might as well, do it in a way that it has some sort of tangible benefit for the people around me. Um, that goes beyond, just punching in, getting a paycheck, and keeping food on the table. There has to be some other existential benefit. Um, and I'm struggling to see where I was going with this now.
It's all good.
Uh, yeah, as far as a why, I mean, like if you wanted something a little more quippy and fast, I don't fit in at a regular work environment. It makes more sense for me to just kind of be like, I'm running my own business now.
I love it.
I love that. That was a really good answer.
Thanks.
Well, well, we're at the point where we're going to run into our hot seat questions.
All right.
We'll see how hot these actually are. So I always kick it off with the first question, which is the same one every time, and it's what is the best and or worst advice you've received in your career?
The best advice. The best advice was literally uh, from Jeff Gomez. He was basically saying that as you grow, you have to expect that the world's going to push back.
Mm.
Um, that's just going to happen. So don't be afraid to grow. The worst advice I ever got was somebody very like well intentioned, was when I was going through kind of an incubator for my business. Maybe this isn't the worst advice ever. I mean, yeah. I mean, the worst advice would be going down the 405 at rush hour. Um,
Yes,
uh,
agree with that.
but like it was just it didn't make sense because the incubator was for people who were starting their own business and were uh, looking to collaborate on improving their business plan, kind of like coming up with a roadmap. And this person, like well intentioned, was like, "Hey, um, you should go and talk to creative directors in town about cinematography services." And I'm like, "You're talking about interviewing for a job. I want to start a
Yeah.
business. I don't want a
Hmm.
job." Like and that's the distinction, is because um I mean, I get why you're saying that. That makes a lot of sense, but if I am focusing on nonprofits, creative directors aren't going to necessarily be in that market.
Mhm.
So I think like when people give you advice that's like well intentioned, but they are so far removed from what you do that they're applying their own experiences to it, you kind of have to take the thought behind the thought. So even the bad advice can actually be good advice. It was an attempt at out of the box thinking. um, so this person does get credit for kind of realigning my view of what to do as far as lead generation. um, it's just that they themselves didn't understand the dynamics of that industry. If I go to a
Mhm.
creative director and I'm like, this is what I do, they're going to go, well, we don't do serial TV shows for nonprofits, or we don't do um, you know big commercial projects for nonprofits. I mean, some agencies do for like the really big national stuff, but not they're not doing that for the homeless shelter down the street.
Mhm.
I like that you said that too, where it was well intentioned, because I do feel like a lot of the quote bad advice that we received is well intentioned and it's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
But I like to think of it as like when I try to ask maybe my parents, like my mom or something, for advice on something that she's not, she
Yes.
has no clue what I do, like what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Love her. Most of my family, I went to my grandma and asked for advice on something. Like she's had years of experience, but not in the specific thing that I'm working on. So, doesn't always translate.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. My mom worked in the hotels my entire life. Um, she can walk into any hotel and tell you whether it's a place that's worth to stay or not, in a minute, because she just knows that business so incredibly well, and she knows how to sell conventions. She knows how to do this stuff. But then when it comes to the thing that I do is like I can tell her in detail, and she'll be like, "Oh, well, have you tried writing a really nice letter to to Marvel and telling them that you want to do a movie?" And I'm like, Mom, I love you, but if there's no firm handshake and a gee, mister, I've got a lot of spirit that's gonna get me there. Um, and
The
that
letter
kind of
writing.
to be fair, that kind of gumption does work in hotels. It still works in hotels because it has certain willingness. The thought
Yeah.
behind the thought is, I think that's the lesson to take from bad advice.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of folks who give advice lack all the context of whatever it is that we are doing.
Yeah.
They're like, this is what I see, on the internet, or this is what I see in movies. And so I think that it's exactly the same. And I was like, yo, those are movies, not the same.
Yeah.
Every
Not
time
Yeah,
there's like a marketer on a thing, I'm like, not real.
yeah,
Just a
yeah.
marketer in
yeah.
name.
Your floor to ceiling glass office, and
Uh-huh.
ordering
Uh-huh.
your peons about, and
Yep.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
some you
Or
just
the
have
Mad
some
Men
pie.
comparison,
The Mad Men.
it's
Yep.
like
Oh yeah.
we don't do that no more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not for a long time.
The three
Yeah.
martini lunch.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We
No.
Definitely.
we used to do that on American Idol. I used to have a lot of three martini lunches. That
Nice.
was an LA special, but there comes to a point where you're just like, I need to get real work done, guys.
Right,
This is
exactly.
not sustainable.
It's not helping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Okay, total pivot from that last question. What is a common way that you help folks get comfortable being on camera?
Oh, this is one of my favorite things, and it's actually an idea my wife came up with. I'd have to dig it out. It's in my supply closet, and I don't want to do it. But I have an old school clapper slate,
Oh, nice.
right? And so it's like you've seen it, clack,
Yeah.
action.
Hmm.
Um, so one of my favorite things to do as an icebreaker, and so far everybody who's done it loves it. I did it for a nonprofit called Reclaim. They help with incarcerated persons who are getting out access mental health care, and they help their families access mental health care. So check out reclaim.org. They're fantastic. Um, uh, every single one of those people, really hadn't done a lot of stuff on in front of a camera. So what I did is I had them hold up the thing. They're like, "Hey, I'm so and so with Reclaim Oregon, Reclaim, with Reclaim. I'm here to talk. Blah blah blah. Take one." And they loved it. They got so excited being able to just like clap the thing, and it felt so Hollywood. And my wife was like, "You should do that every time." And so that's going to just kind of be my go-to icebreaker for everybody. And I just want to keep all that footage, and then that's gonna be kind of an ad thing that I do for my business. Uh, and just over the years, the way that the footage changes is gonna be kind of a fun look back. Um, but people love it because it's just like you don't, if you don't work in film, you probably won't handle those. And the clapper slates that modern production companies use, like the I think it's one of the first or second AC. It's the second AC. People are going to be like, "What? I thought you knew about this." Um, I was never cool enough to join the camera crew. I'm just going to say that. You have to. They are the most tragically hip part of any crew. Um, uh, but they use a digital slate now, and they're just insanely expensive. And I bought my slate for a comedy special I shot years and years ago. Um, and I've used it and people love it because it's old school and fun, and you write your name on it and it looks cool. Um, I forget where I was going with this.
That's okay. It's really awesome because I do think that
Yeah.
that puts people in like the mindset of like, when you say action or, things like that. So that is really cool.
Yeah,
And what a
it's
cool
Oh,
way
fun.
fun.
to feel like serious and important by being able to do that as well.
I love that. That's so fun. Well, I'm gonna pivot again. Um, and you already talked, like briefly touched on this during the talk about like your journey into entrepreneurship and why you help nonprofits. And I kind of want to go a little bit deeper on this topic. Um, why do you think it's really important right now that nonprofits share their stories, specifically like in this world that we're living in?
So institutional trust is eroding. Um, uh, if you are exclusively looking at the news or social media as a kind of a way to find consensus reality, you will never reach the oasis. It's just a mirage. Consensus reality is beginning to fracture, or has fully fractured, depending on who you're talking to. And so when I'm talking about nonprofits and their necessity, is I call them an epistemological necessity, um, because they're on the ground with affected populations. So they're able to tell you what's happening, and you can debate efficacy in those groups all damn day. That's up to them. Um, but they're there, and they can see what's happening to those persons who don't have any voice, um, or whose voices aren't ever communicated to the rest of the culture. Um, so they are, uh, especially if government is failing to provide assistance to people and providing a social safety net, which was revolutionary in the 40s. That's what built the middle class and what built the privilege that all of us enjoy. People in our generations. I'm assuming that we're roughly similar in age. I might be
No,
overly generous with
millennial,
myself here.
millennial
Um,
for me. Yeah.
Speaking as the possibly eldest of millennials, um, uh, like that's like the childhood that we grew up with, the sort of privileges we had, those come from those social safety nets. And whatever your feelings about them, nonprofits are going to be filling that void now that those things are disappearing. and nonprofits are going to be advocating for people who are being actively oppressed um, by the systems that we all unfortunately are have no choice but to live under. There are flaws in the system that nonprofits are seeking to repair, and they need to be able to communicate that, and they need to be able to articulate that as a narrative, because the one consistent truth about the human species is that we view everything as a story. Everything is a narrative. Everything is storytelling.
Mhm.
Storytelling is a part of our species. It is ancient. I demonstrate my nerd by saying it's eldritch. It will wield us as much as we wield it, and we're seeing that more and more with the sort of bifurcation of echo chambers.
Mhm.
So it's really important that we have an epistemology, a way of knowing, and nonprofits are, like I said, on the ground level. Uh, they are in the communities that are being impacted, and they can help communicate that truth. So, we have a consensus reality, and
Mhm.
we can see benefits and impacts communities, and we can express what the flaws are in the system and seek mutual repair. Because that's the other thing is that, honey, please, no,
Little
come on,
kitty. Kitty still playing around.
come here, I got you. Yeah,
Oh, little
he's my
baby.
little girl. She
Aww.
is adorable, and I love her.
As I say, she's blending in with your shirt very
I
nicely with
know.
the black.
I always wanted a little black kitty my whole life, and then we found her at the shelter, and I was like, "Yes,
Aww.
you must be ours." Um, so I really do think that, that what they need is they need to be able to tell their story, and they
Mhm.
need to be able to communicate it. So in addition to um, using cinema grade tools, um, I also want to be able to consult on brand narrative strategy, and like, how are you going to be telling your story? How are you going to be demonstrating that flaw, and also being able to invite people to tell stories with you, because that's as much an important part of collected journey modality as the storytelling itself is the invitation to join in this narrative, tell your part of it. So they need to kind of step away from hero's journey modality.
Mhm.
No one's coming to save you. We all have to save each other.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, most folks who have no interaction with the nonprofit sector either, like, most of us don't know what it is like to be within some of these, systems. Like, you know, to have to access SNAP, to have to access rent
Yeah.
assistance, to have to access, some of these different things. I just found out the other day that Portland's Community Alliance of Tenants didn't get funded. And like, I called them when I was living in an apartment to figure out like if I could withhold rent from my landlord because they would not come and handle our rodent problem. And they were like, oh yeah, there's two options. Either you can just like withhold rent until they deal with it, or just charge, like deduct from your rent
Mhm.
what you did to take care of the problem. And I remember at the time that that the landlord got super super pissed, and I was like, dude, I don't want mice running all over my house.
Yeah.
Like, I bought sticky traps. It was the grossest thing in the world, but and I was like, and I was nice because I bought cheap ones. Like, I'm not giving you this $50 back. Could have been way worse. I could have hired like an exterminator that would have cost whatever for their hourly rate. um, but yeah, there's so many organizations that are losing funding because they don't have that,
Yeah.
as much of that storytelling, or they don't have the means to do like some of the heavy duty advocacy work, down in Salem, and being able to do that as well. So it's hard. It's tough out there. Um, So kind of building on Tori's question, I'm curious if there are like any go-to techniques you recommend for organizations or nonprofits to use to build a culture of storytelling. Because I find this a lot, being that I work with nonprofits on the communications and marketing side. It can be hard to reach out to program staff and be like, like we need these to raise money. Like, we're not being jerks, and we're not, belittling like the effectiveness of the program, but we need to be able to draw out those emotions to be able to explain, what is going on as an organization to really help, ultimately bring the donations and the funding to the forefront.
So it's a multi-step thing, but whatever strategy you're going to employ, even if you don't necessarily subscribe to like collective journey modality or anything that I'm working on in lore works, um, listening has to be the primary tool that you apply, whether you're in leadership or not. You have to center listening, and that means also confronting those uncomfortable tensions in your organization. Jeff Gomez, again, I'm gonna name drop the hell out of him because he's
Mhm.
great. Look him up, Starlight Runner Entertainment. They're fantastic. Um, uh, he consulted on James Madison's estate because they were experiencing pretty significant um, internal culture tensions. Um, and they were able to find overlap through like the polar opposite philosophical distinctions between members of leadership and staff, and uh, they were able to find a common narrative to align on by first listening, and that's what you have to do, and it has to be sort of a listening, a mode of active listening that I think is not fully common in popular discourse, right? I think we've all kind of had those moments where you can tell that the conversation you're having is with somebody who's not really listening. They're waiting for their turn to speak. You can probably count on one hand the people in your life who listen to you and you know they really listen.
Mhm.
If you can cultivate that, dare I say, vibe, I mean, what is it the kids are saying? It's all vibes,
Vibes. It is. It's
right?
all about the vibes.
If you can cultivate that technique, though, where you are really listening, um, you will gain a loyalty that is second to none. You want your donor base to contribute significantly more money to your organization, that you need volunteers. If you can show them that you are listening, and I mean really listening, they'll be with you forever, no matter what, ride or die.
Mhm.
And that's an authenticity you cannot manufacture. You have to perfect that technique. And so that's what needs to occur first. Nothing else happens without that.
Yeah. I want to just like take that clip and then just show that to like everyone I've ever worked
Yeah.
But
with.
wait, I'm waiting for my turn to talk, Tori.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and there's
Mhm.
always that competitiveness of ideas. Like definitely when I worked in nonprofits, like, I'm very solutions oriented. So I hear the
Hmm.
problem and I'll be like, okay, this is what I want to do for it. But I find that a lot of folks, they're like, no, my idea, and not really. Then you just end up being at odds with each other because you can't do everything all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
There's resource
100% agree.
constraints. Yeah,
There's there's person restraints or
that
constraints.
too.
Like
Human restraint. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody has their limit. And
yeah.
that's ultimately what the limiter for all of us is like eventually we can only do so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Well said. I'm gonna pivot again. Well, kind of. So, I would just love to know. I love knowing why people choose the name that they choose for their business. So if you want to tell us why you chose Loreworks Creative Studio.
I mean, I've been thinking about this for ages. When I started thinking like, okay, I'm gonna really go for this. Um, I love storytelling. I love I think it's so important. I think it's probably the most important part of being a human being is storytelling. And it's ancient. I really want to try and connect to that. But at the same time, I really love the aesthetic of the old kind of like trade unions, um, like like brass works, the iron works, like it's a
Mhm.
place where these things are made. And so I like the idea of having this sort of like where we build things here. This is where this is made. Um, surround the idea of lore, which is the collection of stories, right? It's the collection of knowledge around a narrative or a narrative world. Uh, it goes deeper than just an individual story.
Mhm.
So I wanted it to kind of encompass that. And then Creative Studio, well, it lore works itself just is not it's not giving you enough to go on. So there's a kind of a practical application of you need to also know a little bit that it has what is this business? So that it's not just like lore works, the burger and beer bar in Southeast Portland. I
Nice.
mean, not that there is one, but just
Good name
so
though.
that you know what you're kind of getting into, and then it also informs the rest. It forms what you mean by lore works. If it's a creative studio, then we're probably going to be involving ourselves in something involving cameras or involving narrative. It all kind of blends together, and the logo's super cool. So happy about that.
I like it.
So to say what if you say like lore works, I'm just imagining like a Dungeons and Dragons bar type of thing, type
That
of
would
thing
actually be really
in
fun.
Portland. Yeah,
I would go there.
yeah,
I know. Yeah, that would be really
I
fun.
love Dungeons and Dragons.
yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons is probably one of my favorite things, just because it's just storytelling. It's a bunch of
Hmm.
adults playing
Yeah,
pretend. I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
I mean,
fun.
everything, like you said, everything is storytelling. Religion is based on storytelling. Like
Mhm.
our human connection is based on storytelling. I mean, when we talk to each other, we're
Sure.
telling each other a story of what happened. And um, I've been reading a lot of like different genres and like the read harder challenge, and I'm just like, there's certain books where I'm just like, okay, I can DNF this because the storytelling just sucks ass. Or I've read like, I mean, I didn't mind it too much, but I've read like three different books written within like the last 5 years that do the back and forth of timelines. And I was like, oh, is this like a genre decision now that we have, what's happening currently, like every other chapter? And I was like, I'm very surprised that there was three books right away that was doing stuff like that. Like, but I was like, I guess this is a sign of the times. This is what we do now. Um, Awesome. Well, very cool. Well, I have our last question, which is what piece of media content, be it a song, a movie, a book, a podcast, what have you, are you totally obsessed with or digging right now?
Oh man.
You can do multiple too, if there's
You don't have to
multiple
just
things
choose
on your mind.
one.
You don't have to just choose one.
Oh man. Oh man. Okay, so I just got a hardbound copy of the collected works of H.P. Lovecraft. Terrible person, brilliant writer. Um, and uh a personal practice of mine is I try to work out up to 4 days a week. Every time I try to move past that, I seem to get hurt. Um, but like that's kind of just like a regular thing that I feel better if I do it. And the thing that really keeps me going is I've discovered all of these really cheesy Scandinavian metal bands that they all sing the goofiest fantasy based songs. Like there's this one band called Brothers of Metal, and it's all fantasy Viking, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it gets me going. And then a friend of mine, her name's Victoria, turned me on to a band called Sabaton, and I don't think they're Scandinavian necessarily, but they do historic fiction songs. Or I
Nice.
don't think it's historic fiction. I think it's historic nonfiction songs. But
Nice.
it's really catchy. It is absolutely the cheeseball stuff that people think of when they think of metal, and I love it. And I'm kind of obsessed with it because it just kind of like gets you like, yeah, I can just keep going. I can keep doing this. Um, but by far my favorite are these like cheesy fantasy metal bands because it's just so nerdy and fun, and unafraid to be nerdy and fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
Have you ever watched the Eurovision Song Contest? I feel like
Mm.
there's always at least one weird like semi goth metal band that you're just like you made it out of your country, and then there's always like some like trancy diva song that I'm like her voice is so pretty, and you're just like banging stuff. But there's a spoof movie with Will Ferrell in it
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Oh,
Netflix that
really?
they tease. Yeah, he does the Eurovision Song Contest. They're from Iceland, but yeah, they do. I think it's the German. The German band is just it's like stereotypically like German metal, just exactly what you would think of it. So
There's some of them that are they're so nerdy, but it's just so fun. And like once you give
yeah.
up on pretending to be cool,
Hmm.
life gets a lot more fun.
Yeah,
And yeah, so if you ask me what I'm obsessed with, I'm obsessed with like just like unabashedly fun stuff.
Yeah.
that's awesome. I
I think
love
that
that
comes with
answer.
like age. You realize that
Yeah.
you don't need to be cool to be alive in this world.
And you stop caring what people think about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's making
I
me
don't know that
understand why old people have no filter. Like
oh God, yeah.
you're getting there.
My gym is like it is mostly old people. It's part of why I chose it because like
I
there's no
love that.
meatheads competing for
Hmm.
the weights. You can just go there and do it. But
Yeah.
the old men in that locker room, just like there's no like
There's no shame.
none none. I want to write stand-up routines about the weird stuff I have seen in that locker room. Just like you're just a bunch of old naked men just talking to each other about the weirdest stuff. And it's kind of great because you guys just don't care.
Yeah, legit locker room talk.
It's,
Just
yeah, not even like what you think. Like people think
yeah.
that it's salacious. It isn't. It's just like like a couple of guys debating Creedence Clearwater Revival fully nude. And I'm just like, yes, I hate everything you're saying, but this is hilarious that this is happening.
Yeah, I love it.
Incredible.
Well, we've come to the end of our questions. How do people find you? Who do you want to connect with? Sell yourself in this last little section.
Well, presently on Instagram, LinkedIn, and our website, because my wife is also my partner in this, is loreworks.studio. So you can find us as Loreworks Creative Studio on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and then at loreworks.studio, which is surprisingly hard to say out loud.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on with us, Sean. This was a
Yeah, thanks for having me.
wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
And I realize as I'm saying this, Tori, I'm supposed to let you close this one.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
It's Friday at like 5:30. Apparently my brain's like fully there. Well, thank you so much. And we
Thank you,
really
Tori.
appreciate you coming on. And we will 100% have you back. We always have our friends and people that we like really good conversations with come back many times. So we'll probably want to get like check in a little bit to see like how you're doing and like,
I'd love
see
that.
what's changed. Yeah, that would be really fun. So thank you. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. And as always, if you have any questions for us or suggestions, feel free to send us a DM on Instagram or email us at aloha@taketheleap-today.com. And until next week, we'll see you all soon. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Take the Leap podcast. Check out our show notes to connect with us and our guests. If you have questions about the episode or ideas for future topics, send us a direct message on Instagram or email us at aloha@taketheleap-today.com. If you're interested in being a guest, fill out the guest interest form on our website.
If you're a new entrepreneur who is looking for a roadmap to move your business idea forward, check out the Take the Leap course on our website, taketheleap-today.com. Members who join the course also have an opportunity to join us in bi-weekly co-working and group coaching calls to build momentum and work on your business.
And if you'd like a flavor of what we offer, sign up for our free webinar with the 9 essential steps you need to launch your business with clarity and confidence. See you next time.